friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. I have a simple but fairly complicated problem to fix here. Simple but complicated, so that makes it simply complicated. And that's kind of the truth of it. You probably recognize what this is. This is a tailpiece for an upright bass. It's, you know, in bluegrass and country music, it's considered to be a full-size bass, but it's technically a 3/4 size bass. This is the problem. It's ebony. This is real ebony. This, you know, often these are, you know, cheaper wood and painted, but this is real ebony, I believe. They had a wire through here going around the tail pin of the bass. This is what holds the tailpiece on. The strings connect on here, go up over the bridge, and then down over the neck. And this wire holding it to the tail pin, you know, it just worked its way through the grain here. The grain on this goes this way, down through it like this. You know, so it's vertical down through here like this, vertical lines. Now, any grain splits easier on the end. Doesn't matter if the grain's running this way or running that way, it still splits easier from the end. So that's part of the problem. You know, that's the normal design for these, so don't get me wrong. You know, they don't all split. This one did, of course. But part of the reason is just because it's so easy to split wood going this direction. So that's a clue on how we want to fix this. The other part of this is that, you know, I could just get all kinds of glue in there and squeeze this back together, and it would probably look real nice, and it would probably hold for a while. Might even hold forever, but I doubt it. So I think I'm going to try to tackle it a different way. These tailpieces are expensive. You might just say, well, just buy a new tailpiece. Well, you could do that, but they are pretty pricey, especially when you get into real ebony and everything. So we're going to see if we can't patch this in here. This belongs to a friend that was at the jam session that I was at last night, as a matter of fact, and we didn't have a bass player because this broke. Part of me says just put glue in there and squeeze it back together and call it done, but I just don't think that's the best way to fix this. So here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and pull the broken pieces out of here. We're going to try to figure out a way to fix this that won't break again. That's a little bit difficult to do, but I have an idea. Well, here we are once again on the dark side of the shop. We have a fairly complicated setup here. Let's see if we can tilt this up where you can see it a little bit better, temporarily anyway. You can see that the whole tailpiece is in this V block of wood. I used wood because I didn't want to scratch this ebony. I could use a metal V block, but that would just scratch it all to pieces. Now I do have metal clamps on the top here, but this is the back side of it and you won't see it anyway. Plus it's clamped flat and I don't think it's going to leave much of a mark anyway, especially as hard as the ebony is. So, and there's where we are right at the moment. You can see the cutter I have here, it's a milling cutter. And I can go in and out with this and control it very precisely. I could have probably saved myself a big headache and all this set up, because this takes a while to set up and get it level. See, I've got this level because this is the only flat surface, so I've got it level in both directions. I got it level this way and I got it level end to end. So here we go. It doesn't really matter what size this ends up, as long as the only goal is to get it flat and square and to take out as little wood as possible. That's the only two real requirements. So here we go. I'm not going to take big bites, at least at the beginning, and just kind of get an idea here what we're going to do. It's storming outside, if that's what you can also hear, I think. But that's pretty good. That cuts out a pretty good square block there, and yet leaves everything there, I think. I think I'll just go a fraction deeper and just a fraction wider and call it good. We're going to call that good enough. I was just touching the nut here to get back there. I may have to do a little bit by hand right there, but you know, it was just hard to get this set up well, and but it did a good job. That really made a nice, precise, square fill there that we can fill in. There's what it looks like out of the clamps, so that you can see that we're just going to fill a big square block of wood right in there. Yes, it's not totally symmetrical, but this side was more broke out than this side, so I wanted to leave as much of the original material as I could. So there you go, that's what we got. We're set up here at the bandsaw table to measure and make a piece that will fit in here. So the first measurement I'm taking is 955 roughly. So 0.955, that's inches. That would be, let's see here if I get it back on 955. Well, that's close enough. There, millimeters, that's about 24.24. So that's the width. The length is about 32.96 millimeters, 1.300 inches. And the depth then is, and we'll just figure that this way, and just do it a couple times to make sure. I got 0.420, so what is that, about 10 millimeters? 10.65 millimeters. So we're going to make us a little block of wood. The most important part of this whole thing, in my opinion, is the kind of wood and the grain orientation that we put in here. You want a wood that's not going to split easily, and you want to turn the grain in the strongest possible direction from the force. But you also have to make sure it's going to glue in tightly and not, you know, cause a problem that way either. End grain doesn't glue very well compared to flat grain, but then the end grain splits easier. So, you know, you just got to get it all figured out. Ebony would be a good choice, but ebony is pretty brittle, and obviously it's already broke once. So, you know, I think my best choice of the woods that I have to choose from would probably be maple. If I had some elm, especially some real twisted elm, I would use elm because it doesn't split very easily at all, and it's a very hard wood. Maple's very hard, little bit less brittle than the ebony, I feel, and it's hard enough to hold up, I think. So we're going to choose maple for this, and I'm going to look around for a piece of maple that I think would work real well in terms of grain pattern and that kind of thing right now. I've got a piece of curly maple here, and I'm cutting it this way so that I can get the grain oriented the way I want it. It's quarter sawed type curly maple. I figured this will be plenty hard, and that curl in there I think will help keep it from splitting a little bit more. But anyway, that's what we're using. This is 955 across there, so I cut this a little bit more than an inch. The quarter sawed is going this way. My idea is to stand that quarter sawed up so that we're pulling through the grain. You know, maybe you can see the grain there. It's not very good lighting in here. Maybe you can see it better that way. But the grain is going vertically. So I'm going to put the grain in here this way, like this, and then the wires will be pulling through all of that grain rather than like this way through it. It would split fairly easily. That's the idea. We'll see if it works. So now I'm going to thickness this to fit this slot really good first thing, and then we'll take the next step. Well, I gotta be honest, I'm trying to sand this end grain, and it's not the easiest to push through here. I've had more trouble with this than I really have ever had with anything so far. But I think we'll get it done. Just have to take our time. Well, that's just not working very well. That end grain and this piece being so short, if it was longer, it would probably not be a problem at all. But this being so short and stubby, it's very difficult to get it to go through there well. So I'm just going to have to do it a different way. Well, because of that end grain and being so very hard, you could hardly sand it. And even on the big belt sander, it was difficult to sand. You can see a little bit of burning there even. But I did do a pretty precision job by hand, just on the belt sander. And you can see it fits that really well. Very tight. Won't fall out if you turn it over. There's no air around it that I can see, and I've been holding it up to a bright light, so it's a very good fit. I'm not concerned about the fit at all. So we'll go ahead and cut that off. Once we get it cut off, I think I'll take it and over to the drill press, drill the 2 holes I need in this, and then we'll glue it in place. All right, let's get her cut off. Well, there you go. Now you can see the grain line cutting down through this way. And, you know, this is going to go down in the hole like this. And so now that the cables will be pulling through this way. So they're pulling through all of that grain. And I believe that's going to work really well. I'm glad I took a good close look at this because I remembered now that this is offset. So I don't want to drill the holes perfectly centered in this white piece. I want to drill the holes where they'll be centered in the tailpiece. So we'll just take some measurements here and get an idea. On that line there is where I want the holes, and then I want the holes just a little bit up from the back. The old one, you know, the holes would have been almost to the back of this. I planed the holes just out of the black here, so it's going to be pretty close. I'm going to keep the holes a little bit away from that edge, but just a little bit away from the edge down here. So the holes are going to be very close down here. I've got the little block in the vise here, and I have it sitting on kind of like a little parallel piece. It's just a piece of wood to keep it square and keep it from pushing around or anything, and the vise is tightened down on it. Now I've got my lines across there, and that's close enough for our purposes, and now I'm just going to eyeball, you know, trying to get pretty close to the back but not cut through the back and drill the hole. Well, I think we had a success there. You can see the holes are all the way through. It didn't come out this side, and they're all the way through to the other side there. And that should put them pretty close to center on the tailpiece. Hello friends! Just thought I'd interrupt this video and tell you that we've got a visitor in the shop today. His name is Tim Carter, and he's from the Bristol, Tennessee area. Tell him specifically, where are you from?
I'm from Limestone, Tennessee, the birthplace of Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. Is he the one that killed a bar on this tree, or was that
that was Daniel Boone.
Was that Daniel Boone?
It was in the area where I live. It's called Boone's Creek.
Oh, yeah?
It's up there called Boone's Creek.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel Boone must have lived in every state for at least some time, because like he has a home up in Defiance, Missouri too. Yeah. So he must have been everywhere.
He was everywhere.
I think both those guys were.
Yeah.
So you were up on business out west, what, around Wyoming, in that area?
Yeah, out at West Yellowstone. I was out there on a conference. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And he's just passing through and decided to stop in the shop.
Yeah.
So
well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Well, here we are back at the desk. Got her in place. Seems to be fine. Believe it or not, there's still a bunch of ways you can screw this up. You can put this in upside down. You can put it in, turn around the wrong end. So I'm going to put an arrow on this and point this way. Well, now I can't turn it over because the arrow would be, I couldn't see the arrow. So that helps that. And then I can't turn it the wrong way this way. See, if you turn it the wrong way this way, then it sets the center off. So, you know, I got to, this way keeps it centered. So everything looks good. I think we're ready to put it in place. Well, I believe that ought to solve the problem. I don't think that'll break again. It might, I mean, you know, anything's possible, but that ought to be pretty doggone strong with that cable going through the vertical grain. The grain is running across this way, so it's going through the grain. Well, there's what she looks like after a few hours drying. Looks real good. The length of it's just a tad long, but you know, I knew that before I glued it in there. I could have cut that off smooth, but I just decided to leave it. The only reason is just every little bit of length just adds that much more strength. So I didn't see any reason to care about that because it's all hidden underneath anyway. You'll never see it. Now I am just taking a black Sharpie. I could just use black leather dye, but a black Sharpie works good for stuff like this too, so why not? I just want to give it like a full day for that to dry real thoroughly. I don't think it'd come out even if I put it in right now, but you know, just give it that little extra time to dry. That it won't hurt nothing, that's for sure. So there you go, that's what she looks like. Not a bad repair. I think it'll last a very long time. Might even be technically stronger than it was originally just because of the way this wood and that wood matches together and is now bonded. So I just kind of think it might even actually be stronger. Certainly don't think it's going to come loose. I think it's there to stay. Well, this has been drying overnight now, and I think it's plenty ready to be used again. I've got some ideas on how I want to do this, a little different than the way it was done originally. Originally, this was the loop, and this loop was just pulling, you know, you can kind of imagine it going through those holes on the inside there and just pulling down on that raw wood. Well, that would probably work under most circumstances, and obviously it did work for quite a while, but did finally cut through. So what I'm going to do, you know, I can't put this back through there because it's a closed loop. You can see it's been crimped right here. So what I'm going to do is cut off one end right next to the crimp, and I'll put a new crimp on the other end. I'll have two crimps on it. So basically it's the two, if you can imagine my fingers as being the wires, they'll be going up through here like this. I'll put a crimp on the end of each one of them, and then they'll be pulling straight against these holes. And then to spread that stress out just a little bit more, I'm going to put this washer there so that the washer will actually be there first, then the crimp will be pulling against this flat washer, and then that really, you know, should spread the stress out enough where I don't think we'll ever have another problem. My only concern, to be perfectly honest with you, is I don't have, this is a very small cable. I typically use a 1/8 inch cable. This is smaller. This is only about a 0.96, something like that. A 1/8 inch would be a 125, 0.125. So this is that much smaller. What is that, 30,000 smaller roughly? So anyway, and this crimp is a little large for this. I don't have a crimp that's going to fit this, but I'm going to try and see what I can do with this. I'm a little bit, that's the only concern I've got, is that this crimp might not be the right one. I might even try to make one out of a piece of aluminum and drill the proper size hole and crimp it. I don't know. We're just going to have to see that as we go here. You know, these cables are kind of hard to cut. I've got methods for cutting them. I don't have any real good methods for cutting them. I've got a pair of little small cable cutters, but to be perfectly honest with you, I'm less than impressed with that pair. They're a cheap pair, I'll admit, import, and they edges are never sharp enough to really cut this very cleanly. So I thought I'll try using the Dremel tool. And so, you know, I've got this cutting disc on here. I'm going to be wearing my face shield, and we'll give it a shot and see how it works. Wow, that worked great. That's the best I've ever done on cutting something like that. No fraying or anything. It just cut it real nice and slick. That's what I was wanting, so there you go. First time I ever tried using that little cutoff wheel on the Dremel. Okay, so now you can see that we can straighten this out. This can go through here and pull on this, and then this end will go through and pull with another stop here. So the thing we have to do first though is thread it through there. And I want to thread it through the washer first, as I said. I want to thread it through this hole. Little kink there. I probably should have tried to straighten that kink out before I did this, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. Well, I was so zoomed up there, I don't know how much of that I got on film. I didn't think about that. But anyway, you can see I've put this one through, got the washer there, it goes through, goes right back through. I've got the washer on here. Now I need to crimp this on the end, but this is such a loose fit, I don't think that crimp is going to work worth a darn. So I think I'm going to try to make one out of a piece of aluminum that's the proper size that can slide on here, and then we can crimp it. We're just about ready to give this a shot. Here's what the part looks like that I made for crimping. No, it's not going to work with that. Alright, well, I'm going to take it to my press and see if I can't figure out a way to just crimp it on the press. I could do it in a vise also. I just need something that'll really mash this in. Maybe I'll just put a nail in a vise. That might be the best. Or on my press, one of the two. Put a nail across there and press the nail into it. That ought to crimp it pretty good. And if I do it twice, one on each end, that ought to hold it, I would think. Well, this isn't the best setup in the world and probably not the right vise to do this on, but it saves a camera setup, so I'm just going to try it here first. I've got a piece of plastic in here on the back side of that aluminum to help maybe not deform the aluminum so much on the back side, but it'll probably flatten out anyway. I have just a regular finish nail across the end of this, and I'm just going to see if I can squish it together and deform it enough to hold it in there. Yeah, that squished it down pretty good, maybe you can see. Doesn't feel like it's going to pull off. But now we'll do that again on the other side. And hopefully that'll keep it. Matter of fact, I think I'll flip it over and do the other crimp from the other side. And I would think that would even make it better. Although I could be wrong on that. Maybe I should do them both on the same side. But I kind of think doing it from the opposite side will make it even better. So let me get that set back up and I'll show you what that looks like. Friends, I interrupt this video to show you, I don't know what it is, but it weighs just a hair over 25 pounds. It is heavy. So I walked up to the mailbox, which is about, 2 football field lengths. And when I came carrying this back, I knew I carried something back time I carried this all the way. It's a surprise. It's from Mr. David Kinney, who is the one that sent me that wonderful tool. So I figure it's either something really nice or it could be a box full of hand grenades. Let's see. I will say he packed it well because generally something this heavy with that much metal, it usually breaks open in transit. And this did not break open, so he did a good job of packing it. Oh my gosh! Wow! I don't even know what to say. I know what this is. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. It's a rotary table of some sort for working on angles and things. Wow! Gee whiz, this is awesome. And a bunch of collets to go with it. This is exactly what I've been needing. This is just fantastic. Oh, that is so cool. Here's a whole box full of collets. And these collets, to give you an idea, if you don't know what they are, they're in different sizes. And you can see there's a vast difference in size. This would take a piece of steel, roughly whatever that size is there, and roughly whatever that size is. Then you pull it inside this shaft and you tighten it up, and the fact that it has slots in it tightens down around the shaft, and holds it very securely. And the collets themselves, you know, because they're so smooth and round, they don't really leave any mark on your work. So it's awesome, and that's just part of the benefit. The other part of the benefit is that they're perfectly centered, so the work is perfectly centered in this collet also. So there's several benefits to these collets, and he's got the whole, I mean, every size here is in this. It is so awesome. This is a very expensive gift. I can't even imagine if you bought this new what this would cost. It would be a lot of money. Look at that. I mean, there's just all sizes. It's just, I can't even tell you how wonderful this is to have this. I really have been wanting something like this. Now, I do have a rotary table that rotates very similar to this and kind of almost does the same thing. But this is really nice. You can mount this down like to my, I can mount this down to my milling machine, and you know, I don't know exactly how this works yet. I'd have to spend a little time with it, but basically this pin here locks it in where it won't turn, and then you know, you have the ability to put this pin in different places, and you have the ability to spin this. But that is so cool. And the point of it is you mount this down to your milling machine, and then you can turn it a certain number of degrees, cut a flat, turn it a certain number of degrees, cut a flat, you know, so like if you want something 8-sided, you can make it 8-sided. If you want something, you know, with 16 sides, theoretically, I mean, you could do it. So it is so cool. So I guess he wasn't too upset with the way I modified his tool. You talk about a kid at Christmas. This is like a kid at Christmas. Seriously, this is very nice. And on top of that, I mean, not only did it cost him a real chunk of change to mail this thing. So, David, thank you. Wow. Just, I don't even know what to say. This is awesome. Okay, I have to read you the letter that David sent on this. You know, I'm not a real good reader, so bear with me. It says, "Hi, Jerry. Dave out here in the Wild West. About the only thing wild out here is the wildfires. None yet this year, but last year we lost the town of Paradise. Don't pray for paradise, you might get it. Anyway, I'm watching the video of you made of modifying the tool I sent. I just broke out in tears." And he has a little emoji there crying, by the way. "Can you imagine how I felt watching a craftsperson that doesn't have the tools to cut a hex?" He says, "Hell, I'm starting to cry all over again." Here's the tool that will cut a hex and a lot more, and I agree, it will cut a lot more than just a hex. I use 5C collets, and that's what these are here. These are awesome. The tools I sent are surplus, duplicates unused anymore. Rather than wasting away in my drawer, I'd like for you to have them. Wow, that is so cool. I can't thank you enough, David. That is so cool. Here's the guitar that David built the tool for that he fixed. You can see where the tool was intended to work back here in this spot, like I was showing in my, you know, simulation there of that simulated guitar top in that first video. You can see that, you know, he put his tool in and was able to, you know, he could see the problem from the outside. And once in a while that's the case. But very, very often you can't see the problem from the outside. And that's the reason for the modifications to the tool, because I need to work anywhere on the inside and no tellings where the problem will be, you know. Obviously, David wasn't too upset. And David, I seriously can't thank you enough. I thought I'd let you see the back side of the tool here where you do your lineup. There's a notch cut in the top here. There's a 0. When you put this in the 0, then that 0 lines up. This is marked off in 360 degrees around here. You know, it's just getting familiar with your new tool is all it amounts to, and it will take me a little while to get used to that and understanding the angles and which one's going to cut the right number of flats that I need to cut and all of that. And there's more that you can do with this than just cutting flats too. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Keyways and things that, you know, you need to get them at the proper angle to something else. And I mean, there's just all kinds of things that this can be useful for. So I am very happy to have it. Having never really used one of these and never really even seen one, I wasn't quite sure even how to get the collet out. But I figured it out here. This handle, you know, you just spin it backwards and then that unscrews the collet. Just to give you an idea, you can see it here now that this threads into there, and what it does is it pulls it in, and then this angle here, you know, it matches the bevel on this end, and that pulls it up tight and squeezes these where the cutouts are here, and squeezes it around the shaft that you have in there. There's some little machine grooves here that keeps it in there straight, so you have to put it in one place only, and that keeps it from spinning, so that when you tighten this down, now I'm tightening it down, and that's what's pulling it in here, see? And that's why you have to have so many different sizes, because your piece of steel isn't going to change its shape. So this thing you have to have enough sizes to match the piece of steel that you put in here, and then tighten this down and pull it tight around that piece of steel. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. Now I'm starting to get it. Now I'll watch a few videos on using these so that I can be a little more proficient. I just gave up on the plastic. It didn't seem to help all that much anyway, and it's just extra thing to try to hold, and I already had more of the hold than I could hold. So here we go. We're gonna crimp it down on this side. Well, I believe that's as crimped as that baby will ever be. I don't think that'll come off. I think I'm going to crimp the other one, the first one more time. I don't think you could do it much better than that. Yeah, I don't think that'll come out of there. I'm pretty sure that's crimped. So there's what she looks like up close. It's crimped down pretty good. Don't think it's going to go anywhere. The sound post has fallen out too, so I just use one of these springy tools that has a claw on the end to reach down in there and get the sound post. As you can see there, works really good for stuff like that. In fact, you could probably even set the sound post with this. Why not? We'll just give it a try and see if we can. If your sound post is done correctly, there'll be a slight bevel to it, and that bevel will it's hard to explain, but maybe you can see the end there, the grain, and they've got a line showing which way this goes. And so this will go across the grain of the top. The top grain goes this way, this grain goes this way. So, and then the bevel would pull up against, you know, like you start where it's high in the middle and you pull it against the bevel. So that's what the bevel has to match the top to. So it looks to me like it was put in like this. So I'm just going to try this with this tool. I've never tried it before, and well, let's just see if we can put it in with this. I have a feeling we can. So now I just got to get a hold of it in the right orientation and put it right. I can see where it was on the bottom. If I can get it to stand there on that spot, and I think I can. This tool's a little bit awkward, I got to be honest. Might be where I grab a hold of it at. I might need to get it in a different spot. It's coming now, I think. I think I actually got it. No, I think I did. Well, one good thing about this tool is it's got a hold of it pretty good, so you can grip it and move it around. And so that put it in there. Now I think I will take a hook, reach in there with a hook and pull it around a little bit. Might just be a very tiny amount off. I'll try pulling it just a little bit at the top. This is where you knock it over. I think I got it. We're going to call that good. We'll go ahead and tune the base up and see if it holds. Well, there you go. We got her all tuned up. The tailpiece is holding just fine. At least it is for now. Basically, you tune it up and you just get away from it. It's up to pitch. Everything looks fine. I think we're going to let her sit and rest and see how well it holds, but I believe it's going to be fine. Friends, I hope you enjoyed that fix on this base. You know, in days gone by, I might have just thrown that tailpiece away, but we were able to salvage it, and in my opinion, at least I believe it's as strong as it ever was, and even maybe possibly stronger. So, thanks for watching.